Hello friends, welcome to another episode of 100 most important topics, and in this we are doing the current affairs section. So in today's class I will be discussing three important international organizations which have been in news, and we can expect question in the exam from these international organizations. So the first one is International Court of Justice, second one is World Trade Organization, and the third is International Atomic Energy Agency. All three are important and questions can be asked from these international organizations. So let us look at them one by one. First of all, let's look at International Court of Justice, ICJ. It is also known as the World Court, and it is the principal judicial organ of United Nations. It was established in 1945 as successor of the Permanent Court of International Justice (PCIJ), which was a part of the League of Nations established in 1922. So we know that League of Nations was the predecessor organization of United Nations, and similarly International Court of Justice, the predecessor was Permanent Court of International Justice, which was the judicial organ of League of Nations. Now the main purpose of International Court of Justice and its predecessor was mainly to settle disputes between states and also to provide advisory opinion on legal questions. So that remains the major purpose of International Court of Justice. Right. Now International Court of Justice, as I told you, it is also known as the World Court, and it is located at the Peace Palace in The Hague. Right. So this is important, that sometimes the where it is located, that can be asked in exam. So the International Court of Justice is located at the Peace Palace in The Hague, and Hague is in the Netherlands. Now International Court of Justice comprise of 15 judges, right. So there are total 15 judges from different nationalities, and they are elected for a 9-year term by the UN General Assembly and UN Security Council. So they are elected by UNGA and UN Security Council for a 9-year term, and the judges who retire, they can also be re-elected. Now 1/3 of the judges, they retire every 3 years. So there is election after every 3 years. Now the official language of International Court of Justice is English and French. So these are some basic facts which we should know about the International Court of Justice. Now very importantly, a question can be asked that there are 6 principal organs of United Nations, and out of these 6 principal organs, only 5 are in New York. One of these principal organ is not in New York, which is the International Court of Justice. As we have seen, it is located at the Peace Palace in The Hague in the Netherlands. The other principal organs, United Nations General Assembly, United Nations Security Council, Economic and Social Council, Trusteeship Council, and the UN Secretariat, which is headed by the Secretary General, they are located in New York. Now important thing to note here is the most powerful organ of United Nations is the UN Security Council. Then the Trusteeship Council, which is the principal organ, but it is inactive since 1994, right, because it was established to manage the territories which were under this council. So the last territory which was supervised by the Trusteeship Council was Palau, which became independent in 1994. Right. So since then it has been inactive. And if we look at the Secretariat, so the Secretariat of United Nations is headed by the Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres. He is the 9th Secretary General of United Nations, and he is serving his 2nd term, and he has been Secretary General since 2017. So 2027 will be his final year, because the term or tenure of the Secretary General is, one tenure is for 5 years. So he is already in his 2nd tenure, and the maximum limit is 2 terms for the UN Secretary General. And Mr. Antonio Guterres, he was the former Prime Minister of Portugal. So he comes from Portugal. Sometimes such questions are also asked. Now we should also know the Indian judges or Indians who have served as judges in the International Court of Justice. So there have been 4 individuals: Sir B.N. Rao, who was the advisor to the Constituent Assembly; 1950-53, Nagendra Singh 1973 to 1988, R.V. Bhandare from 1991 to 96, and Justice Dalveer Bhandari. He is currently serving in International Court of Justice and he is also serving his second term. So, since 2012, he is a judge in the International Court of Justice out of the 15 judges. Right. Recently, the International Court of Justice has been in news for one important case which has been brought against Israel by South Africa, and the case pertains to genocide committed by Israel in Gaza Strip. So, in 2024, South Africa brought a case against Israel for committing genocide against the civilian population of Gaza Strip. Before this, in 2017, Gambia, which is again an African country, it had brought a case against Myanmar for committing genocide of Rohingyas. Right. So, these two cases are very important and can be asked in exam. Now, what is genocide? So, it is an intentional destruction in whole or in part of a national, ethnic, racial or religious group. That is genocide, and it is a international crime against humanity, and it is governed by the 1948 Genocide Convention. Right, 1948 Genocide Convention. Now, let us try to answer this simple question. So, the question is, where is ICJ located? International Court of Justice, the location you have to identify. A is New York, B Paris, C The Hague, and D is Geneva. So, you can write your answer in the comments. Now, let us move to the next international organization, which is WTO. So, World Trade Organization always in news, and recently it was in news because the 14th Ministerial Conference was hosted by Cameroon at Yaoundé. So, World Trade Organization, let us look at some of the basic facts about the organization. So, it was established on 1st January 1995. It was formed under the Marrakesh Agreement after the Uruguay round of negotiations. Right. So, these things are important. Formed on 1st January 1995 by the Marrakesh Agreement. Marrakesh is in Morocco, and Uruguay round of negotiations, which continued from 1986 till 1994 of the General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade, GATT. So, GATT was the organization which was replaced by WTO, right, and the round of negotiations which ultimately led to the formation of WTO was Uruguay round of talks, and the final agreement was the Marrakesh Agreement, right. So, these three things we need to remember. Now, World Trade Organization succeeded the GATT, General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, which had regulated world trade since 1948. Headquarters of WTO is in Geneva, and the member countries are 166. Here also one important point we should note that these 166 countries, so for a long time the membership was 164, but in 2024 two new countries became members. One was Comoros, it is a country in Africa, and the other was Timor East or Timor Leste, right. So, Southeast Asian country. So, these two countries joined in 2024, and the total membership now is 166, right. So, this can also be asked in exam. Now, General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, which has regulated the world trade since 1948, it was focused only on goods, while WTO, it covers trade in goods as well as services and intellectual property, right. So, WTO is comprehensive. Now, WTO is headed by a person who is known as the Director General of WTO, and the current Director General of WTO is Miss Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and she comes from Nigeria. She is also serving her second 4-year term. So, the term for WTO Director General is of 4 years, and she is already serving her second 4-year term. Now, important thing here is that Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, she is the first women Director General of WTO and the first African Director General of WTO. right. Now, let us look at some of the key bodies and key agreements under WTO. So, the prominent bodies of WTO are one, ministerial conference. It is held once in 2 years, right. So, it is biennial and it is the highest decision making body of WTO. And the other body, important body of WTO, is the dispute settlement body, which resolves trade disputes between countries. So, countries can file their complaints in WTO and the WTO dispute settlement body resolves the issues. Now, the key WTO agreements are TRIPS, TRIPS, AOA and GATS. So, TRIPS stands for trade related investment measures, TRIPS stands for trade related intellectual property rights, AOA stands for agreement on agriculture and GATS stands for general agreement on trade in services. These are some important agreements of WTO. Now, let us look at the 14th ministerial conference, right. So, many times in exam we can expect direct question that where was the 14th ministerial conference held. So, the right answer would be Cameroon and the place is Yaoundé, right, Yaoundé in Cameroon. So, one should look at the location of Cameroon in map as well. Now, this was the 14th ministerial conference of WTO and this has ended. It was held in March 2026 and it has ended without consensus due to disagreements over the e-commerce moratorium, right. So, what was the e-commerce moratorium? It is a 1998 agreement preventing members of WTO from imposing custom duties on electronic transmissions like software and digital content. So, why this moratorium was not continued? Here developing countries and developed countries, they have opposing views. Now, the developing countries, they want to tax the e-commerce because most of these companies are based in the developed world and they are doing their business in developing countries, and because of the moratorium on imposing taxes on these e-commerce companies, what is happening? There is revenue loss for the developing countries. So, that is why the developing countries want to tax e-commerce, whereas the developed countries, they are saying that it will increase the trade cost because most of these companies are repatriating the profits they are earning from developing countries to the developed countries. So, both sides are having their own viewpoints, and because the consensus could not be emerged between the developing countries and developed countries over this issue. So, the meeting or the conference ended without having any decision on this, and now the moratorium has lapsed because of it. So, theoretically the countries are free to tax the e-commerce between countries, right. So, e-commerce can now be taxed. Now, let us look at the questions. So, you can attempt this question. I will read it out. Consider the following statements. Number 1, WTO was established under the Marrakesh Agreement as a successor of General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, GATT. Statement number 2 is Ministerial Conference is the highest decision making body of WTO, and statement number 3 is the 14th Ministerial Conference was held at Geneva recently. Which of the statements above are correct? Option A is 1 and 2, option B is 1 and 3, option C is 2 and 3, and option D is 1, 2 and 3. So, please write down the correct answer in the comments. Now, let us move to the next topic, which is International Atomic Energy Agency. So, IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, it is a very important organization of UN and it is also known as the nuclear watchdog. Now, it is an intergovernmental organization, that means the governments are the members of this organization, and the aim is to promote peaceful use of nuclear energy and to prohibit its use for military purposes or for making nuclear weapons. So, that is the main aim of IAEA, and IAEA was established in 1957 as the world's Atoms for Peace organization. Now, this Atoms for Peace was actually a speech which was given by US President Dwight Eisenhower to United Nations General Assembly in 1953, where he talked about such an organization which will work for a nuclear weapons free world, or a world which will be safe for all from nuclear weapons. So, because of this, IAEA is known as the Atoms for Peace organization. So, the question can be which person had given this Atoms for Peace speech, and it was given in 1953 by the US President Dwight Eisenhower, and based on that in 1957 IAEA was established as part of the UN. Now, the International Atomic Energy Agency, it reports to both United Nations General Assembly and the United Nations Security Council. The headquarter of IAEA is in Vienna, Austria, and at present it has 178 members. India is a founding member of International Atomic Energy Agency, right. So, this is what we should know about the IAEA. Now, let us look at a question based on what we have seen. So, the question is, which of the following terms are commonly used for IAEA, or are commonly used to refer to IAEA? Option number A is nuclear watchdog, option B is atoms for peace, option C is both A and B, option D is none of the above. So, please write down your answers in the comment section. I will see you in the next episode with some more topics. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.